So we looked for cleared land. In fact, we were looking for like land that already had infrastructure, maybe like a cleared dirt road and a well already drilled, or with a road and like a perked land, so we knew we could put a septic in, an in-ground system, which is a lot cheaper than the other systems that you might have to do in this area. A place that electric was already run in. We couldn't even find any cleared land that fit our requirements and that were in our budget. So we really didn't have a lot of options. Our really only option was to buy wooded land and do all that work ourselves, clear what we needed to clear and run electric and everything in. And that was a decision we had to make because we had very specific ideas of how we wanted to live our lives on this property. And you know, if we didn't have to, we didn't want to compromise, as anybody shouldn't have to. I think you should be really, really picky and specific about the land that you're going to settle down on. So for us, that meant buying a heavily wooded lot and doing what has become a year and a half of manual labor and clearing and trenching and God knows what else here, all by ourselves. But I think we think it was worth it. So far, we're really happy with where we're at, and I think we made the right decision. So, cutting down trees. Unfortunately, that's what we had to do to be happy and comfortable on this property. You know, so what I immediately started doing once I realized it was going to be a wooded lot was scoping out the value of the trees on the lots, not to sell, but the value of what I could use them for. So I'm looking, my background is furniture making and also house building, but I didn't know exactly what materials we were going to be using to build the house, so I didn't want to put all my eggs in that basket. So I focused on making furniture, and hardwood flooring and things like that. So I was not looking for softwoods. I wanted hardwoods on the property. So what I ended up finding was a piece of property that had like a ton of red oak, it had some white oak, it has some good maples, and that's what we cut down. I was trying to selectively cut down trees on the property, take as few down as possible, and also as many that I could use for things. I wanted to minimize how many trees I had to cut down and just make into firewood. I wanted to, mill and build my house out of most of what I've cut down. So, I did the best I could with that. I think I'm probably around like 50%. 50% of the trees I cut down, I'm going to be able to use to mill into lumber for the house, and the other 50% are firewood. So that's the way that turned out. So, this brings me to, the decision to cut down all these trees. It's a hard decision, but it had to be made and it had to be done to get to where we are. I gave it a lot of thought. I thought a lot about, the cleared land that's in the area already. And like I said, it was all heavily wooded forest before people came in and started, making homesteads and houses and roads and things like that. It all had to be cleared at one point. If I were to buy a cleared piece of property, it isn't really any different than clearing another piece of property, the one that we ended up clearing, because it used to be woods and now it's not. That's the bottom line. You could make the argument that if I bought one that was already cleared, I wouldn't have to cut down the trees. But the bottom line is, if I didn't buy this piece of property and cut down the trees I did, somebody else would have. And the reason behind that is population growth. As long as the population is increasing and people, there keeps being more people and they keep having to, expand further and further and cut down more forests in order to build their homes, then we're going to keep having this problem. So right now, with the population growth, if it wasn't me, it was going to be somebody else. And because I didn't buy a piece of cleared land, somebody else did. If we didn't have the constant population growth, then it wouldn't make sense to cut down more trees to build more things. We could just continually repurpose land that had already been cleared and not clear more. The bottom line is I realized that it wasn't going to make any difference in the long run if it was me or someone else. We could make the argument for tiny housing here and the fact that I probably could have found a small little piece of property. But the bottom line is that that's not what I wanted in my life. I want to manage a forest responsibly. I want to pull out brush and chip it and make compost and heat water like Jean Penn. I want to, have some animals and have gardens and build multiple houses. So my dream didn't fit into a small piece of property, or a tiny house, or compact housing like condos or things like that. So for me, this is just what I had to do to live my dream. And I feel like every person should be entitled to their dream, to live the life that they want to live. I think we live in an age where we're so lucky to be able to do that. And I feel like everybody at this point in time should have the ability to do it. If I made a lot of sacrifice and I lived in a tiny house with just a teeny little garden, I just wouldn't be as happy. This is how I want to live. Of course, you can argue that. Of course, you could say, well, you can sacrifice. I think the same thing, but I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a tough question. It's like, if I don't have to sacrifice and I feel like I'm doing this as responsibly as possible, then I don't want to, and I didn't. It's as simple as that, I guess. The other thing too is that if it wasn't me who bought this piece of property, it would have been somebody else buying this to, build a development of houses, most likely. This was a big piece of property for most single families. Most single families don't want to do what I'm doing. The fact that I bought it and a development didn't means that, there aren't like a dozen houses built in here, and the whole thing, would have been like clear cut for the most part, if just like a lot of other developments in this area are. And then there would have been, none of the trees would have survived. I feel like I cut down such a small percentage. I probably cut down like 5% of the trees on this 15-acre, piece of land here. I am going to keep the forest healthy. I'm going to take out all the brush, and I'm going to take down older trees and dead trees and let new ones grow and regenerate it. I feel like, considering what this place could have been, I'm probably the best fit. I'm doing the most justice to this land. Does any of this excuse cutting down like a couple hundred trees probably in the end? No, it doesn't excuse it. Do I feel great about it? No, I don't. I never wanted to do it. But if it wasn't me here, it would have been a lot worse. And the condition of where we're at with overpopulation and just the way the human race exists on this planet right now, I feel like it could have been much worse. That's how I feel about it, and I think I made the right choice. The land that we just bought in Ulster County, New York. And the first step is cutting down trees to clear the driveway. We got about a 1/4 mile driveway to cut through this thick, dense forest.